All right, everyone. One of the things that Trump does with the greatest finesse is forcing people who otherwise would never tell the truth to report the truth by being hyperbolic. He's done this before, like with CNN and crime statistics. And he did this like back in 2016. He got them to report some of the inner city crime statistics that he overblew and was hyperbolic on. Like, I think in regards to Chicago crime at the time, people were talking about how the Democrats had run it into the ground. He's like, oh, there's 1 million crimes a year. And they're like, no, it's not 1 million. It's only 500,000 or, something comparable. And Trump then crowed about it afterwards. Haha, I'm so powerful I can even make my enemies tell the truth. It was funny, because it shows that's exactly what he was doing. It's sort of like when he pushed AOC and the others to the forefront politically in order to destroy the Democrats' credibility, and he successfully did that. And I said that like 2 days before Trump sort of admitted publicly that that was his goal. I had speculated that, and I think a few others had. Now, a lot of people didn't catch on. You've got to sort of read between the lines when you're looking at Trump's strategy. Anyway, Trump now has gotten Vox to report successfully on how unpopular impeachment is. Because Trump came out and said, well, support for impeachment in some polls is in the low 20s. Now, I'm assuming he means like Republican-leaning independents or something. Like, I'm sure there's probably some poll out there that he's going on, but the idea is, what happened is that Vox looked at that claim, and of course the claim is centrally at least misleading. In order to correct him, though, they have to use the real numbers. Well, the real truth is impeachment is no longer particularly popular. It started out above 50% approval for impeachment. It is far below that. It's in the mid-40s right now. That's number one. It's less popular than before. It's less than 50-50 in popularity, which you'd think Trump's disapproval levels tend to hover in the mid-50s, and yet there's this gap of 7 or 8 points between the number that disapprove and the number that want to impeach. That's terrible for the Democrats. The numbers should be very close. The approval for impeachment should be above 50. In a world where the other polls can be relied upon, and or in a world where there are a lot of people with Trump derangement syndrome that don't form a soft opposition to Trump that can potentially be won over if the Democrats make a misstep. This is why I think they lose 2020. They are assuming that anyone that doesn't approve of Trump tacitly hates him as much as they do, for partisan or ideological reasons. Oh, I smell a storm brewing. I don't think that it's close to that. I think there's a good 10 points in the population of variability. Then there's also soft support for Trump as well. Let's not kid ourselves. I just don't see anything tipping them in the Dems' favor because they've gone off a cliff. Then they've had to report approval for impeachment is less than 50-50. That's strike number one. It's decreasing, number two. And you've got a whole nother phase of inquiry ahead that's going to be arguably even more boring than the last one was. Well, there's strike number three, because it was the boringness of the impeachment proceedings. The first episode 1 of impeachment, for the first couple of hours, everyone's eyes were glued to it. Everyone petered out after that in the first day of the proceedings. Their star witness was a bore fest, didn't confirm anything other than hearsay, and doesn't bring forth anything impeachable to the table. The problem is you've got so many different groups of people jaded right now under the impeachment proceedings. And this is what Vox never would have wanted to report unless they thought this was a juicy take that they could make by Trump arguably lying about the actual approval for impeachment. Approval among Republicans for impeachment is virtually non-existent. It's in the single digits because his approval in party is in the 90s somewhere or the upper 80s. It's at Reagan levels, arguably above Reagan levels. So there's no gusto within the Republican Party. The majority of independents don't support impeachment. Well, that's terrible for the Democrats because they were hoping this was going to be their 2020 platform as a stand-in for any good ideas. Joe Biden's getting dragged to the left now. He's getting dragged in every direction. Obama's begging him to stay in the center lane. He's getting dragged. I mean, he could get outflanked by Michael Bloomberg. Bloomberg's got the money to outflank Biden, potentially. He's got enough name recognition to do that. He could make real problems for Joe Biden. Bloomberg might end up being the reason the Democrats go far left and then fucking off a cliff in the general election. Do you think in a million years Vox would have reported... Imagine this. Imagine this story from Vox or CNN or something. Approval for impeachment below 50% and falling. Expectation of impeachment now dwindling as Democrats get fucked. You've got one Democratic representative, a Kamala Harris ally, by the way, who's already jumped off of the impeachment bus, saying, no, I guess I wouldn't vote for it because, Trump is a slimy, bad dude, but there's nothing here legitimately impeachable. It caused too much problems within the country. I'm almost expecting Pelosi to spike impeachment at this point and just shelf it. Table it and say, well, no, we don't have enough to go on. We need more, so we're going to wait until other whistleblowers maybe come forward. And of course they won't, so it'll be like a stalemate. If that happens, woe unto her and the neolibs. I guess the far left benefits by it because their fans will go nuts because they've got Trump derangement syndrome, want to kick him out of office as soon as possible. The Democratic Party is trying to hold together, and it's really, I don't see the likelihood of it persisting. I don't see any possibility of the Democratic Party actually managing to hold it together. It's just becoming too difficult for them, I think, as a political movement, because you got people that are socialists or a half step from socialism, and then you got Biden and Bloomberg on the other end, and you've got all these various wedge issue candidates like Yang with UBI, Tulsi Gabbard with Assad. It's no offense, but that's true. It's crazy talk. Trump has managed to con the left-wingers into talking about how impeachment is no longer a popular idea. Less than 50-50. That's terrible. Trump's disapproval in the aggregate is in the low to mid-50s usually. Unless, and this would be the funny part, unless all the polls are still wrong like 2016, Rasmussen is correct and he's at 50% approval or thereabouts. In which case he coasts to re-election because you got, again, a hidden Trump vote that'll roar up and take all those Rust Belt states. If it's Sanders, that's nearly a guarantee. Once people look at the math behind his programs, his proposals, it'll be a different story than just the free ice cream man. I'm a harmless old man with some fiery, fanatic ideas, but I'm your grumpy grandfather that wants to give you lots of ice cream and fatten you up before throwing you in the oven. That's basically what Bernie Sanders casts himself off as. He's a revolutionary. He's almost 80 years old, dude. His revolution every day is successfully going poop. His revolution every day is managing to get up in the morning at this point. Come on, fucking give it a rest. He looks more and more like Karl Marx. He needs to grow a big-ass fucking beard and let his hair grow long and wild. Well, wilder than it is now. He needs to get Albert Einstein hair or something. Then he'd be more endearing. Then he'd look even more crotchety. And he'd have an even bigger cult of personality, maybe. So it's funny to see Vox have to report on this. This is pure Trump. You know that he did this on purpose. He puts out some misleading factoid or some skewed number or some cherry-picked poll, and he knows that people jump all over it, correct him, but in the process, they're not saying bad things about him. Oh yeah, impeachment is arguably less popular now than popular. The popularity level has fallen off a cliff by 6 or 7 points since the inquiries began, certainly since October. How's that bad for Trump? The majority of the country probably doesn't want to remove him from office. I would think that's bad for the Democrats, and this is Vox reporting it. Of course, you have to get past the first paragraph to get to the nitty-gritty of the story. Again, it's a lie-by structure. They put the stuff that they want you to hear in the first few sentences, and then the rest is the actual meat and bones they're hoping that you'll ignore. That's about all. Peace out.